Are you the kind of person who thrives on setting goals and taking action to achieve them? Are you someone who feels most alive when you have a clear mission? Then you might be a Choleric Pilgrim, also known as the Determined Trailblazer. Hi, I'm Jen, and this is my Camino Temperament series, where we are talking about how your unique temperament might play into the way that you are a pilgrim on the Camino de Santiago. If you don't know your temperament, you can watch the videos and make a guess, or you could go ahead and take the free Camino Temperament Quiz that I have linked in the description below, and that will give you your result and enable you to follow along a little bit more closely to this series. So make sure you like and subscribe so that you get the next videos as well. But today we're going to go ahead and jump on into the Choleric Pilgrim. If you watched my temperaments intro video, then you know I talked a little bit about how they relate to the speed and intensity with which we respond to stimulus around us. So in the case of the Choleric Pilgrim, you respond to stimulus with very quickly, with high intensity, and it tends to last for a long duration and sort of easily induce excitement. So what does that mean in terms of your Camino? Let's take a look. So we're going to start by talking about the strengths of the Choleric Pilgrim, because it's always good to start with things that are comfortable and make you feel good about yourself. Choleric Pilgrims tend to be highly motivated and disciplined, which means that they set goals and stick to them. So you have a plan, you know what you want to do, and you are all in on hitting that goal. They tend to be strategic and efficient, which means that they are looking to pick the best route for the goals that they have for themselves, and they tend to walk with purpose on a daily basis. They also tend to be really resilient, which means that they can push through pain and obstacles without losing focus, right? So they're driven by that mission, by the goal that they have, and so they're not going to be easily dissuaded by difficulties that come up. They have a lot of resiliency. If you are active on any of the Camino forums or Facebook groups, you might recognize cholerics in the comment sections because they tend to be the ones who are offering really solid and detailed advice about planning. So they tend to have some strong opinions with good support for why to pick a particular route, or which type of backpack to have, or how to select the right shoe. So they are very helpful in sharing the planning that they have done, but they also are definitely advocates for making a plan, right? I think they sometimes don't see that other pilgrims might or might not have as strong a need to have everything decided from the beginning. Which is a good bridge to then talking about the challenges of being a Choleric Pilgrim. I think one of the biggest ones is really struggling with flexibility. So when things don't go as planned, which inevitably happen on the Camino, they can really get frustrated. And so figuring out how to regroup from that, or anticipating that the frustration might happen, might be a key part of understanding your temperament on the Camino. Sometimes they can be impatient with their fellow pilgrims. Being someone who is very driven, who has a big goal, they might find pilgrims who don't share that target goal or who are walking more slowly. That's not how they want to walk their Camino. If you're not a choleric, you may not walk with a lot of cholerics because they tend to forge straight ahead, and a lot of the other temperaments are going to be a little slower in terms of wanting to take in the experience around them. This does not mean that clerics are not taking in the experience, let me be very clear, but because they are driven and they have this bias towards action, they tend to be the go, 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 which then leads to things like overexertion. And so the Choleric Pilgrim can risk pushing too hard and not listening to their body because they have the goal set and they are going to achieve it whether their body responds or not. I have a little story about that from my Camino, my first Camino. So obviously I'm not a choleric, but we all have different tendencies of the temperaments at various times. And so a choleric can come out in me sometimes because I do like to plan things. And when things don't go to plan, it can be frustrating. About halfway through my first Camino, I found myself having some foot pain, some shin pain, and I knew that I needed to stop and rest, but we were only like 2 days outside of Lyon, and so it's like, okay, I'm gonna make it to Lyon, I'm going to just have an extra rest day, like I'll plan for that, and that will get me recuperated, which seems like a great plan, right? But that night at dinner, I had really bad pain on the outside of my left heel, and I looked down and I had developed a really bad blister. And it wasn't one like I had ever seen, and it was really hot to the touch and just really painful. And the really odd thing about that, not just that it suddenly appeared at dinner that night, was I had been wearing my sandals to walk because we were on the Roman road, and so I didn't really need my heavy boots at that point. So I was taking a break for a few days, and that blister showed up in a spot that nothing was rubbing, right? There was no cause for that blister. It just showed up. And so my friend Kathy that I was walking with was like, you should probably get that checked out. Let's go to the doctor's office the next town. So the next morning we took a bus. I got checked out at the doctor's office, which was its own hilarious story. It was great. And they said, yeah, rest, iced ibuprofen. And so I took the bus again, second day into Leon. So this was like, I had to give up a lot because I was like, I am walking every step of this Camino. And my body was like, actually, no, you're not. Since then, I have always known that was a way that God was sort of hitting me over the head with, yeah, your timing is not really necessarily my timing. And if you're not listening to all of the sort of basic signs I'm giving you in your body of like the pain, that means you need to slow down, then I'm going to give you a blister that you can't ignore, so that you have to take care of it and you have to stop and rest. And so I think being aware of that, listening to your body is something that is challenging for any human, but for clerics particularly, and that it can have some repercussions. And so it's worth remembering that it's not a race and that your goal can be hit in different ways. And also your goal might need a little bit of adjusting. So it was a mental adjustment for me to realize that it was actually okay not to have walked every single step. I still want to go back and do those 2 days, but it didn't stop me from having or doing my Camino. So don't overexert yourself or God will send you blisters. The next thing to consider for cleric pilgrims, for any of these in the temperament series, is what helps you thrive, right? So what are situations that you can look to put yourself into that will actually help you build upon your inclinations and not fight against them? So one is making sure that you have clear goals to aim for. So that might be as big or as simple as having a personal intention for arrival in Santiago. Like, what is the thing that you want to have accomplished when you arrive? It also could be something small, like the night before setting an intention for the next day's stage and like how far do you want to walk? Because setting that on a day-to-day scale might be a better idea in terms of allowing yourself to take into account how you're feeling, how the days have been going, whatever is going on around you. But making sure that the goal is clear and having that goal is good for a cleric, but making sure that they are realistic goals kind of built along the way might be useful. Because you like to plan, but you might need to be flexible, you can plan to be flexible. So one thing that might be helpful is to actually plan rest days into your itinerary, like build them in. Don't pack every day so full with all your goals that you can't adjust, where one thing changes and the whole domino set falls. No, go ahead and plan for flexibility. And then the last thing about thriving, so clerics like challenges, and they also really struggle with surrender. So making surrender your challenge might be something to think about. So if you know that it's difficult for you, how can you set a goal to surrender so that you can accomplish something, but also that accomplishment is in rendering the loss of control? To help you think about that, I would suggest just reflecting on that. Where am I clinging to control? Because that will then help clarify for you like a place where you could surrender. So that leads me to the practical tip for cleric pilgrims, which would be planning to not plan. So choosing one day to let go of the plan. Like, okay, this is a day I'm just going to wake up and I'm going to walk out of the albergue and we're going to see what happens. I'm just going to follow those yellow arrows for as long as I can or want to, but there's not like an end target for the day. You just see how it unfolds. So again, planning not to plan might be a wonderful thing for the cleric pilgrim. So I hope that was helpful. If you haven't taken your temperaments quiz yet, go ahead and do that. It's in the description below. But also, think about what I've shared in this video. And if that resonates with you, you might be a cleric pilgrim. So like and subscribe. And why don't you drop a comment below? Are you someone who wants to walk alone and stick to your plan? Or do you like more flexibility in your Camino. Either way, I hope that you'll stick around to learn about the other temperaments. And if anybody wants coaching from me, I'm happy to do it. I do these 30-minute sessions that can discuss your particular temperament, but I also do a whole coaching program for pilgrims preparing for or coming back and reflecting on their Camino. So all those links in the description, but I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that this helps you have more peace and purpose and joy on your Camino. So I will see you in the next video and wish you a buen Camino.